Unease over US President Donald Trump's presidency is proving to be a boost for the gold market. His unpredictable character and anti-global trade rhetoric have led the charge for gold this year. However, the rising US dollar, thanks largely to Trump's tax cut talks, have seen the precious metal drop this week. We've got John Butler of Gold Money right here to talk us through this. Now, I've actually just contradicted myself, in my introduction, because I'm saying that actually he was the reason for the gains and actually now he's the reason for the losses. But that's just Trump's effect, I suppose.
Well, that's right. He is the one who's in focus, and depending on what he's talking about, it could be supportive for gold or it might not be supportive of gold. The fact is, he's not really consistent with respect to previous political molds that a political analyst could sort of, sort out and analyze in a systematic way. Don't get me wrong, Trump may believe, and he may indeed know what he is doing, but it doesn't easily come across that way to the public at large. And so, you sort of get to take and pick and choose whatever it is you do or don't like about what he's saying and whether it is or is not supportive for gold.
Because, as I said, we've seen some losses this week, haven't we? We've come off from the highs. Was that to do with the fact that he met the Japanese Prime Minister, everything was smoother than what we thought because of this anti-trade rhetoric that we've had in the lead up to this meeting, or is there more to it? Is it that simple?
This is important. The trade issue is very important because most people know who look and study these things that trade wars are enormously destructive of economies and therefore of corporate profits and stock market valuations. And of course they just generally increase uncertainty, and that's all gold supportive. So the more trade war talk there is, gold should get a boost. So yes, other factors equal, if it looks like Trump in fact is being a bit conciliatory towards major US trading partners, that might then lead to some profit taking in gold. So there's a long way to go yet, because clearly Trump is not going to just settle and roll over and say, okay, fine. He is willing to play a little bit of brinksmanship, and we don't know quite where that's going to take us.
Okay, we don't know that. What do we know then?
We know the economic reality, the underlying economic reality, which in fact is continuing to become more gold supportive. Inflation is picking up everywhere. You see it in the euro area, you see it here in the UK very much. You also see it a little bit in the US, notwithstanding the strong dollar. Other factors equal, that's gold supportive. You also see in many places around the world that economic growth is still pretty anemic. Is that really able to support what are quite lofty stock market valuations, in particular in the US and a handful of other places? If the shine comes off the stock market, other factors equal, gold will also get a boost from that.
What about the Federal Reserve, though? Because we're expecting, 3 rate hikes this year. How will gold respond?
Well, it's difficult to know. The Fed have been speaking in a quite hawkish tone of late. That has perhaps put the brakes on what was the beginning of a gold rally a few weeks ago. But the Fed, of course, remained data dependent as always. And if the growth data remains as weak as it actually has been recently, and if the leading indicators don't improve, the Fed may not follow through on those 3 hikes that the market currently prices in.
Okay. If you've currently got gold in your portfolio, what should you be watching then? Trump? Federal Reserve? What else?
I think it's difficult to watch Trump for the reasons that we discussed, where he says one thing one minute, one thing the next, and the market will just take and run with whatever it wants on that particular day. So I think that's a tough one. I think it's a higher quality trade just to accept that the current global environment, current set of circumstances of debt and deficits continuing to grow, banks clearly having issues, in particular in the euro area, a few other places as well, emerging markets still struggling in certain respects. The fact is that the world is replete with risk at the moment. Risk which, in a way, people aren't looking at rationally as much as they would because they're all focused on Trump at the moment. It's a distraction from what is an underlying economic situation that is not particularly healthy and historically would be more gold supportive.
And we've spoke off-air as well about what's happening in France. It's probably not getting as much attention on a global scale because Trump tends to take over, doesn't he? But actually that's very gold supportive, right?
Well, absolutely. The fact is that in France you have a situation where this founding member of the EU that has always been part of the most tightly knit core club of the EU may decide through this upcoming election that it's effectively going to renegotiate its relationship with the EU. That is a huge historical development. It raises huge uncertainty regarding not just the future of the EU, but of course the euro itself as a currency. That would also be quite gold supportive if that uncertainty level increases.
Okay. With all that in mind, I know a lot of it is uncertain, and ifs or whys or buts and everything else. I want to talk about price. Where do you see it going this year?
Well, I do believe it's going to move higher. If the Federal Reserve blink properly and indicate clearly to the markets that they're simply not going to follow through with these rate hikes, I think gold could easily rise $100 or even $200 from here, just on that sort of reassessment alone. Why? Because the only thing that's truly been fundamentally gold negative recently are those interest rate expectations. That's really the only thing. Everything else that I'm looking at has been supportive of a continuing rise in the gold price. So if you remove that one element, the Fed, gold has a lot of room to rally from here.
Okay, you heard it there. Thank you very much indeed. That's John Butler of Gold Money talking about a rally in gold that is on our way in 2017.